Today's topic is how to throw harder. And this is Tips with Trev, the show where I give developing baseball players some easy tips to end their slumps faster and become a superstar sooner. So let's get into it. All right, so when you hear about throwing harder, you hear a lot of different tips. You hear bend your back, use your legs, fast arm, build arm strength, long toss, get really strong. Oh no, mass doesn't matter, it's all about movement. Oh, movement doesn't matter, it's all about strength and how elastic you are and your genetics and all this different stuff. So we're gonna talk about most of that, maybe not all of it, but we'll just talk about all of it. Here's the truth. Throwing harder probably involves all of that stuff, or some of it, the majority of it for most people. So you could be someone that has really good genetics, and then you probably are just going to throw hard pretty much whenever. But you also probably could throw harder than you do. If you're not someone with good genetics, then a lot more of those things are probably going to matter. So let's just start at the beginning. All right, I got a list right here on my phone. We're going to start at the beginning. We got mass. Okay, so how would mass help you throw harder? Well, is it good mass or bad mass? Is it muscle or is it fat? Is it, maybe you're skeletally, you weigh more and you just weigh more in general than another person. So I'm going to approach all this from a physics standpoint. And I know some of you aren't going to understand physics, and that's okay, but I understand physics, and that's how I'm going to present this information. So if you are more massive, meaning you weigh more, you're bigger, it could be any mass, when you are dropping with gravity or when you're moving forward, you're creating more force because more momentum. Momentum is mass times velocity. And so there's more energy in the system. So there's a higher pool of energy that you could potentially transfer to the baseball, meaning that you have potential to throw harder. And that's just by being more massive. So if you keep everything equal and you say, I'm 200 pounds right now and I'm throwing, let's say 90, and I become 220 pounds and nothing else changes, I still move the exact same, all that, you'll throw harder because you have more potential energy to actually transfer the baseball. So what kind of mass matters? Well, we're going to get into that a little bit, but mass in general does matter. That's why you can see someone like, one of the best examples was CC Sabathia. When he lost a bunch of weight, he threw a lot slower. And he said, I just don't feel like my fastball is there, because I'm lighter and all that. This happens to a lot of players. They are overweight or they're deemed to be overweight and their coaches ask them to lose weight. So they go and they lose 30 or 40 pounds and they come in great shape. They're in good shape. They look good physically, but they aren't the same player because they're a lot lighter. And so if you lose a lot of mass, you lose a lot of energy, you have to find it elsewhere. You have to be able to compensate for that to maintain the same level of performance. So where could you gain that from? Well, you could gain it from strength. So certainly if you lose mass, but you get stronger, let's say you are overweight and you lose a lot of fat, but in the process of losing fat, you're able to replace some of that with muscle and you end up less weight, but you're more powerful, you're stronger. You can compensate for that because now you can produce more force muscularly. So that's one way you can go about it. You can get stronger. You can get more powerful. Strength and power don't always equal out to be the exact same. You can be strong but not good at moving fast. And so that would mean that you're not nearly as powerful. If you move, again, back to momentum and force production, if you move more weight faster, there's more total force. So that's what power comes down to in the weight room as well, is if you can move more weight faster, you are more powerful. So that's one way you can do it. Another way you can do it is elasticity. You can train elastic properties of the body. You can become more springy, let's say. This is where like plyometrics come into play. You jump. You can jump higher. You can train yourself to jump higher. How do you train yourself to jump higher? Well, you get stronger first off, so you can produce more force, and then you get more elastic. So you get better at absorbing force, loading the tendons, and then unloading the tendons. The tendons in the body are basically the springs and the trampolines, or however you want to talk about it. So you can train that property. You can do depth jumps and depth drops. A lot of the Russian training that came out in the 70s and a long time ago is very good about that. You can train elastic properties. You can train yourself to jump higher. It's proven. So that applies to pitching as well. When the front leg hits and the hips rotate, you can train elastic properties in the core so that you're better at transferring that energy. Think of the body as like a spring. A little spring versus maybe a car shock. You would like to have large, stiff springs that also can load really fast and unload really fast. That would produce a lot of force. Whereas a spring that's not very stiff and takes a long time, it may be able to load fast, but it just kind of slowly springs back, isn't going to be nearly as good for producing force and energy. So you can become more elastic. You can become more elastic in your legs in the way that the front leg lands and stabilizes and stops energy and transfers that to the hips and to the core and to the shoulder. You can become more elastic in all those different places. And so certainly becoming more elastic helps because that's how the force is multiplied as it goes up the chain and ultimately delivered to the ball. Someone that can move maybe 3 meters per second down the mound before foot plant can throw, let's say, 95 miles an hour. Well, there's compounding energy, and that's one way that you do it, is elasticity. Another one is gravity. You can use gravity to your advantage to produce more force. It's pretty simple. If you're up here and you drop a little bit, you have lost potential energy and you're gaining kinetic energy, which is movement, basically. So if you are massive and you get very low in the delivery, you sink into your back leg a lot, you let your body weight drop as you move down the mound, you can use gravity to produce more force. So all of that is going to help you throw harder. So the ideal scenario would be that you're very massive, you are very strong, you're very powerful. So another way of saying that is you're very big with lots of muscle and very little fat, and very powerful. You've trained yourself to be elastic as well. So big, you're massive, you're strong, you're powerful, you're elastic, and then you move well. So that's another way you can throw harder. You can move well. And this is where the debate comes in that strength doesn't matter, mass doesn't matter. It's all about movement. Oh no, movement doesn't matter. You can just brute force your way through it. Let's just get stronger and you'll throw harder. You don't need to change your mechanics. No, both matter. The ideal scenario is that you're very strong and massive and elastic, but that you also move very efficiently. So movement in the delivery comes down to, first off, can you move that way? Sometimes people have structural blocks. Let's say their hips may be corkscrewed, they have FAI, or their shoulder capsules are hinged, or they just can't get structurally, bone-wise, they can't get into certain ranges. So you just compensate around that. There's ways that you can do that. If you can't get as much shoulder-hip separation as another guy, the total degrees, you probably need to be more powerful and have stiffer springs, so to speak, in your core, so that the limited amount that you can get is very much more like a car shock than it is like a mechanical pencil spring. If you've ever taken one of those apart, it's the best example I can think of right now. So there's the actual physical ability, like can you get into these ranges of motion? Another one is just the actual movement of it, of the body itself. Can you train your body to move the correct way? Can you get the hips open? Can you delay the shoulders? Can you pull the glove? Can you time that up with the way the arm spirals? Like all of these things to set yourself in position. I cover a lot of these different mechanical cues in different videos, but movement does matter. So you would want to move very efficiently. How how deep do you get into your back leg, and how do you open the hips up, and how much energy can you transfer into foot plant? How well does the lead leg block? How well does the glove arm block? How well does the elbow spiral? All of these things matter for throwing harder. So you just really have to come down and look at where you fall on the spectrum. Here's a couple examples. I was 160 pounds when I went to college as a 17-year-old. I was 5'11 and a half or 6 foot at 160 pounds. But I was able to throw 94. I had topped at 94 at the time. 2 years later, I was 170 pounds, about 6 foot. I didn't grow very much, but I had topped at 97 miles an hour. So what really changed there? Well, I got a little bit more massive. I had a little bit more energy. Perhaps I moved better into foot plant. Perhaps I had better mechanics. But most of that was due to movement and training the movement. I didn't really change very much physically. I was still very similar weight. Sure, I probably got a little bit stronger overall. I might have been able to produce more force muscularly, but most of that was probably due to mechanics. And just the speed, the way I used gravity, the way I blocked my front leg, how explosive I was. I certainly could have gotten more elastic. That's all the training I did back then. I didn't really do any weightlifting. I didn't try to add any muscle or strength. I just did a lot of speed and elastic work. So that helped me throw a little bit harder. Now, as I sit here right now, I'm somewhere in the 208 pound range. I'm still the same height. I'm a lot stronger. I'm a lot more powerful. I'm stronger than I am powerful. I'm not very good at moving heavier weight faster. So that's something I'm working on right now, trying to get one of the other areas that can help you throw harder, trying to build that up. I move extremely efficiently. I've pretty much maximized the amount of velocity I'm going to get out of my current build and my ability to move on the mound. I'm super efficient in the actual movement of my delivery. But I'm not nearly as powerful as I could be. I'm not nearly as strong as I could be. I'm not nearly as massive as I could be. I'm not nearly as elastic as I could be. There's a lot of different ways to improve my velocity, and those are the routes that I'm trying to go down now. So to buy into a certain dogma of, oh, it's only movement that matters. It's only strength that matters. Oh, it's only arm strength that matters. It's how much you throw and throwing weighted balls. That's all that matters. It's going to, all of those things can help, but they're not the only thing. And I think that's really the main point of this video, is to give you a wide range of things that can help you throw harder and a little bit about how they may help you throw harder, physics-wise, how they may manifest themselves. So that it gets you to think a little bit more about where are you? What ends of the spectrum are you on all those different things? Do you move really well on the mound, but you're just not very big? So getting stronger and more powerful could help. Great. Then you should focus on the weight room and doing that. Maybe you're very strong, but you just don't move very well on the mound, and so you need to get your hips open more in the foot plant, or your arm doesn't spiral very much. So you need to tighten up your arm action, or whatever the case is. Well, you probably should spend most of your time working on the movement. Perhaps you move very well and you're strong, it's just you're not very elastic. So it's kind of sluggish and slow, and you don't get that transfer of energy nearly as much as someone else might. Okay, well then maybe you need to jump into plyometrics, or you need to jump into something else to kind of stiffen up those springs, so to speak. So that's the point of this video. You got a lot of different ways you can throw harder. You can get more massive, stronger, more powerful, more elastic. You can use gravity better. You can move better. Your intent can go up. Your throwing fitness and whatever else can go up. There's a lot of different ways to do it, but be honest with yourself. Evaluate where you are, what you are good at, and what you aren't good at, and then spend most of your time working on the stuff that you aren't good at to get better at that. You'll get a lot more rapid improvement that way than trying to get the last, let's say, 5 or 2% of something that you're already really good at, when the other things are, maybe you're only 50% of the way there. So that's it for today. That's the episode. How to throw harder. Lots of different things to think about. Hopefully you learned something. I appreciate all my fans out there that watch on a consistent basis. Really enjoy interacting with you guys and girls, and not so much the internet trolls. Been getting trolled a lot recently about all the MLB negotiations. So all you people telling me that I'm greedy and whatever else, I don't sit here in this chair giving you guys free content because I'm greedy. I want to move the game forward. I want to be out there playing as much as you want me out there playing. So that's all for today. Regardless of what you do on the internet or what you think about me, hope you have a good day. Hope you are staying safe during this pandemic and all the different stuff that's going on in the world right now. So be safe, be healthy. Hopefully see you out at a baseball stadium soon. I'm out.